I'm 38 now, and when all of this started, I was 35. I had what I thought was a stable, boring in a good way life. I'd been with my girlfriend, Emily, for 6 years. We lived together, talked about marriage in that vague, someday soon, way, and shared a dog and a million routines. Nothing felt dramatic. Nothing felt fragile. My best friend, Mark, had been in my life even longer. We met in college, survived shitty apartments, bad jobs, and worse hangovers together. He was the person I trusted without thinking. The kind of guy who had a key to our place and showed up unannounced with beer when he knew I'd had a rough day. Looking back, that access should have scared me. It didn't. At the time, it felt normal. Healthy even. Emily and Mark got along easily. Too easily, maybe, but I told myself I was lucky. My partner liked my best friend. My best friend liked my partner. It felt like adulthood done right. Before everything changed, my biggest worries were work deadlines and whether we'd ever afford a house. I thought betrayal was something that happened to other people. People who ignored obvious signs. People who weren't careful. I really believed I was different. That belief didn't survive very long. Mark was always around. Dinners, movie nights, random errands. If Emily needed help fixing something when I was working late, Mark would swing by. If I wanted a guy's night, Emily would sometimes stay home with him, ordering takeout and watching trash TV. I didn't see a problem. I trusted both of them completely. The first red flags were small and easy to dismiss. Mark texting Emily directly instead of going through me. Emily mentioning conversations I hadn't been part of. Inside jokes I didn't get. I remember feeling a flicker of something uncomfortable and immediately pushing it down. I told myself I was being paranoid. Insecure. That real trust meant not questioning every little thing. Mark had always been intense about emotions. He struggled with depression and leaned on us heavily. Especially on Emily. He'd tell me, "She just gets it, man. She listens." I felt proud of her for being supportive. I felt sorry for him for needing it. Sometimes he'd say things that felt off. Like joking that Emily was too good for me, or that he didn't know how I'd survive without her. I laughed along. I thought that's what you do. Emily, meanwhile, started pulling away from me in subtle ways. Less affection. More time on her phone. She'd say she was tired or stressed. Life stuff. Normal stuff. I believed her. I wanted to. Trust is a weird thing. You don't notice it cracking. You just notice one day that you're holding it together with excuses. The real shift happened slowly enough that I didn't recognize it as a turning point. It felt more like a growing fog. Conversations with Emily felt guarded. Like she was choosing her words carefully. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd smile and say, "No, just a lot on my mind." Mark, on the other hand, became more openly emotional. He started saying things like, "I don't know what I'd do without her," right in front of me. Or, "She's the only one who really understands me." It made me uncomfortable, but I told myself he was just bad at boundaries. One night, after a few drinks, he said something that stuck with me. He looked at me and said, "You know, sometimes people need different things from different people." I asked him what he meant. He shrugged and said, "Just don't take everything for granted." That should have been my wake-up call. Instead, I laughed it off and changed the subject. Emily stopped initiating sex entirely around that time. When I brought it up, she cried. Said she felt disconnected from herself. From everything. I held her and promised I'd be patient. Mark texted me later that night, thanking me for being there for her. It felt strange. Like he was inserting himself into something that should have been between us. Still, I did nothing. I thought love meant endurance. Silence. Giving people the benefit of the doubt until there was nothing left to doubt. The suspicion finally hit me on a random Tuesday afternoon. I came home early because a meeting got cancelled. The apartment was quiet, which wasn't unusual. Emily worked from home some days. I heard her laughing in the bedroom. Not a casual laugh. A soft, intimate one. I didn't think cheating right away. I thought maybe she was on a work call. Or FaceTiming a friend. Then I heard Mark's voice. Coming from her phone. I froze in the hallway like an idiot, heart pounding, telling myself there had to be an explanation. I didn't want to hear more, but I did anyway. He said, "I just worry about you. You deserve someone who puts you first." Emily replied quietly, I know. I stepped away before they noticed me. I sat in my car for almost an hour, hands shaking, trying to calm myself down. I didn't confront her. Not then. That night I barely slept. Every memory replayed itself with a different tone. Every joke. Every late night. Every time I'd left them alone together. The next day, I checked her phone while she was in the shower. I hate that I did it. I also hate that I found exactly what I was afraid of. Messages deleted. Threads muted. And one unsent draft that said, "I don't know how to choose." That was the moment my life split into before and after. I confronted her that night. I didn't plan it. The words just came out of me, messy and desperate. "Are you in love with Mark?" She went pale. Didn't answer right away. That silence was louder than any confession. She finally said, "It's complicated." I remember laughing. A sharp, ugly sound. "It's not complicated. It's yes or no." She started crying. Said she never meant for it to happen. That he needed her. That he was in a bad place, and leaned on her, and she leaned back without realizing how far it had gone. I asked if they'd slept together. She hesitated. Then nodded. I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching myself fall apart. I remember saying, "In our bed?" and hating myself for caring about that detail. She said no. At Mark's place. Like that was supposed to help. I asked her how long. She said a few months. I asked if she loved him. She said, "I don't know." That hurt more than a yes. She kept saying my name, reaching for me. I pulled away. Everything felt contaminated. My home. My memories. Even my friendship. Later that night, Mark texted me. "She told you, didn't she?" I blocked him without responding. Anger came later. At first, it was shock. A numb, hollow feeling where my chest should have been. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to Emily cry in the bedroom we used to share. The next morning, she tried to explain. She said Mark told her he needed her more. That he felt lost and empty, and that she was the only thing keeping him together. She said she felt responsible. I asked her where I fit into that. She didn't have an answer. She said Mark convinced her that what they had was different. Deeper. That I was safe, but he was real. Hearing my best friend reduce me to a placeholder made something in me snap. I finally confronted Mark in person a few days later. He showed up uninvited, like he always had. This time, I didn't let him in. He stood in the hallway and said, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I asked him how long he'd been planning it. He swore it wasn't like that. Then he said, "She needed me." I'll never forget his exact words. "She needs me more than she needs you." That sentence rewired something in my brain. It wasn't just betrayal. It was entitlement. Like my life, my relationship, were resources he felt justified taking. I told him to leave. He tried to hug me. I shoved him away. That was the last time we spoke. The emotional fallout was messy and humiliating. I cycled through rage, grief, self-blame, sometimes all within the same hour. I kept asking myself what I'd missed. What I'd done wrong. Why I hadn't been enough. Emily begged me not to leave. She cut off contact with Mark, showed me messages, offered therapy, transparency, anything. Part of me wanted to believe her. 6 years doesn't disappear overnight. Another part of me couldn't stop hearing Mark's voice in my head. He needs her more. I started questioning everything. Every compliment Emily ever gave me felt suspect. Every fight we'd had felt like evidence I'd ignored. Friends took sides even when they tried not to. Some said Mark had issues, and Emily was manipulated. Others said betrayal is betrayal. I felt like a case study instead of a person. Work suffered. I'd stare at my screen and forget what I was doing. Nights were worse. I'd dream about them together and wake up drenched in sweat. I hated that I still loved her. I hated that love didn't shut off just because trust was gone. I hated myself for considering forgiveness. We tried to work on it. Couples therapy. Long conversations that went in circles. She said she felt chosen by Mark in a way that scared her. That his need made her feel important. I told her that being needed isn't the same as being loved. She agreed. Then cried. Then asked me not to give up on us. Sometimes things felt almost normal. We'd cook dinner, laugh, sit close on the couch. Then a random thought would hit me and I'd pull away, emotionally exhausted. I asked her why she didn't come to me when she felt lonely. She said she didn't want to burden me. That hurt in a quiet, deep way. The truth was, I'd been there the whole time. She just stopped seeing me. Mark tried reaching out again through mutual friends, claiming he wanted closure. I refused. Closure felt like another word for manipulation. Emily said he was spiraling. That he blamed himself. I told her that wasn't my problem. But I could see it in her eyes. A lingering concern. A connection not fully severed. That scared me more than the affair itself. The breaking point wasn't another revelation. It was exhaustion. I was tired of monitoring her tone, her phone, her moods. Tired of feeling like a guard instead of a partner. One night, I asked her a question I'd been avoiding. If he showed up tomorrow and said he needed you again, what would you do? She didn't answer immediately. That was my answer. She said she loved me. That she wanted to choose us. But love shouldn't require this much convincing. I realized I'd never trust the silence between us again. That even on good days, part of me would be waiting for the next betrayal. So I ended it. Quietly. No screaming. Just a mutual understanding that something fundamental was broken. She moved out a month later. Took the dog half the time. Took furniture. Took pieces of my life I wasn't ready to let go of. I watched her drive away and felt both devastated and relieved. Some endings don't feel like explosions. They feel like finally setting down something too heavy to carry anymore. The aftermath was lonely in a way I didn't expect. Friends checked in at first, then life moved on for them. For me, everything felt paused. I kept replaying moments with Mark, wondering if he ever saw me as more than an obstacle. If our friendship had always been a competition I didn't know I was in. I felt stupid for trusting so completely. For not setting boundaries. For ignoring my instincts because I didn't want to seem jealous or controlling. Therapy helped slowly. I learned that betrayal messes with your sense of reality. That self-doubt is a common side effect. Some days, I missed Emily fiercely. Other days, I felt anger toward her that surprised me with its intensity. I never heard from Mark again. Mutual friends stopped mentioning him. It was like he disappeared, taking a whole chapter of my life with him. I started rebuilding small routines. Morning walks. Cooking for one. Rediscovering who I was without constantly accommodating other people's needs. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I felt okay. Some days I felt like I was back at the beginning. But I kept going. About a year later, I ran into Emily by chance. Coffee shop. Awkward smiles. We talked like polite strangers who shared a history too big to unpack in public. She told me she was single. That she'd done a lot of self-reflection. I told her I hoped she was okay. I meant it. She asked if I hated her. I said no. Hate takes too much energy. As we parted, she said, "I'm sorry I didn't choose you sooner. That sentence followed me home. Not because it made me want her back, but because it confirmed something painful. I was always a choice, not a certainty. I've learned that love without boundaries invites damage. That loyalty isn't proven in words, but in the moments when temptation exists. I still flinch sometimes when people get too close. Still struggle with trust. But I also know more about myself now. I know I deserve to be someone's first instinct, not their fallback plan. If there's one thing that still hurts, it's losing my best friend. Romantic betrayal is expected in stories. Friendship betrayal cuts deeper because it rewrites your past. Mark knew my insecurities, my fears, my history. He used that access without hesitation. I sometimes wonder if he ever felt guilty, if he ever missed me. Then I remind myself that it doesn't matter. Some betrayals don't need closure. They need distance. I've dated since. Slowly. Carefully. I'm honest about my scars. Some people understand. Some don't. I'm learning that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the memory without letting it define you. Still, some nights, I lie awake and think about how easily everything fell apart. How someone I trusted could look me in the eye and say he needed her more. I think about how I believed him. Writing this feels strange. Like opening a box I've kept sealed for years. But I needed to get it out, somewhere anonymous, where it can just exist without judgment. If you're reading this and something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it. Trust doesn't mean blindness. Love doesn't mean silence. And if someone tells you they need your partner more than you do, believe them when they show you who they are. I'm not angry anymore. Just sad in a quiet, distant way. Sad for the versions of us that didn't survive. Life is calmer now. Smaller. But more honest. Maybe that's enough. Sometimes I think about how close I came to staying. To accepting a half-healed version of love just to avoid being alone. That scares me more than the betrayal itself. Loneliness forced me to meet myself again. To figure out who I was without being someone's anchor. I don't regret leaving. I regret how long it took me to see that staying would have cost me more. I don't know if there's a neat lesson here. Just this, trust is fragile, and once it breaks, love alone isn't always enough to fix it. I'm still carrying pieces of this story with me. Probably always will. But I'm lighter than I was. And that has to count for something.